Hey guys, welcome to Sweetcast. You know you're winning. You know you're winning when the opposition is doing mental gymnastics so bad that nobody's jealous. It's insane. A few things I want to talk about because this case just keeps evolving. And I'm speaking of the lawsuit between your boy Zach and Mark Waid. I'm going to talk about this because it's newsworthy. Stuff is happening, and it is interesting. So you may remember that Mark Zaid, if you're not on Twitter, bless you, your life is probably better. If you are on Twitter, then you'll know that Mark Zaid has gone through these weird phases on Twitter. He'll go from completely being silent or talking about random national security issues that he knows very little about, to totally fighting with Comicsgate Online or just random people online, all sorts of stuff like that. And it seems really strange when he really gets into the mud. And it feels like he has some kind of strategy around it. Like he's just desperately trying that somebody is going to threaten his life. And that way they have some quote unquote evidence to prove that Mark Waid was getting death threats or something that looks like evidence, because Mark Waid gathered no such evidence. Mark Zaid seems to be out in full force today trying to do just that. And I'll tell you, it's been so funny to watch just people dunking on him. He must think this is part of his strategy because he's just not very good at the whole making people look bad on Twitter thing. So it is, I don't know, it's shocking. So he got this tweet from Luke, that real cool hand. And, there's a little bit of taunting going on. I think, sometimes some of this is totally called for. And Mark Zaid says, you have no clue, no Comicsgate person does, because he's really got something up his sleeve. Oh, I'm sure of it. Then he continues, just wait until Wade's reply brief is filed next week. Well, I can't read. Zero concern. By the way, how do you enjoy #1 movie Captain Marvel? Piss you off that female character used to be a man? Now, I don't know. I don't know if he's... Is this guy trolling? Is this lawyer trolling? Or does he really not really get Captain Marvel? I love this one. He used to be a man. Dude, you're talking about two different characters. If he's talking about Captain Marvel, Shazam, Captain Marvel, it's not the same Captain Marvel. But okay, I gotta skip down here a few more of his comments. Now he says one that's totally insane, especially based off of what Mark Waid is accused of doing. So it seems really stupid that Mark Waid's lawyer is going to this length to I don't know, just try to make people upset on Twitter. It's really strange. Okay, but before he gets into the really meaty stuff, he says, I think it would be the other way around, Luke. Like how proud your mothers are of the success you've achieved as doxers, harassers, and professional trolls. You probably achieved more than ever expected. In fact, why don't you just go upstairs from your mother's basement and ask her, ha 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 ha. Oh, you live in your mother's basement, dunk. This is his favorite thing to do, to just say, you're a nerd that lives in your mother's basement. It's like, really? This is the most generic kind of insult that you could possibly do to anybody that is generic nerd from your point of view. And it's just weird. It's lazy and weird. But that's okay. He gets hit with the facts. The deposition papers, it's kind of hard to get out of that. But he says, shame they didn't post the entire deposition contents. Can't wait. Truth hurts. What else possibly could that deposition say that made Mark Waid look so much better than he did in what actually was released? Luke, that's a real cool hand, says, looking forward to it. So am I. And then this is the juicy one right here. Mark S. Zaid Esquire says, oh, I'm looking forward to putting the movement out of business. Rest assured. Now, if your client is accused of interfering in a tortious manner in somebody else's business affair, in their business contract. If that's the accusation, and then the lawyer goes around saying that he's going to put your not just your boy Zach, but you that are trying to make an indie comic, doesn't matter who you are, and I'll include Downcast in there. He doesn't care. He's gonna put you out of business because you belong to this movement that is working to make your own comics and make comics just better. So this is where I stopped taking him seriously, because it's hard to believe that somebody is that stupid to just throw this layup in the air. I've got to believe that he's fishing for something, because he does this frequently, and he'll shut up and ignore people on Twitter all the time, and just come out when something happens with the case, and it seems like he's just fishing for something. Speaking of fishing for something, here's that Bleeding Cool article that I tried to get yesterday, but their site was not working because of, I'm sure, all of the insane amount of spam and advertising that is slathered all over their website like butter. But it's really funny in these deposition papers, because you're getting all these private emails and personal messages that are happening, and because of that, you'll get people's names evoked, like Rich Johnston, and this was one of the people on Antarctic Press that's talking. I'm sorry, I forget exactly who it was that was talking here, but he called out Rich Johnston, of course not directly to his face. This just came out in the papers, but he says, "Does Rich Johnston only write about Antarctic Press when there is some sort of controversy?" Yeah, and so this is Rich Johnston's. I guarantee you, this is the reason he wrote this article. And this is a lengthy article that is showing a lot of the evidence, and he's doing his best to spin it in Mark Waid's favor. I don't know, objectively, if you're looking at this objectively, how can this be good for Mark Waid? Seriously, look at the evidence before you. This does not look good. And, this is a fair and damning indictment of comic news. The Bleeding Cool is one of the names in comics that you would go to get news, quote unquote news. We all know it's extremely biased, but if you say it out loud, that's going to, of course, offend Bleeding Cool. So this is Rich Johnston saying no, he doesn't write only about Antarctic Press when there's some sort of controversy. No, though I do tend to look for something newsworthy, and this does count. He also laid out some recent sales figures for Antarctic Press that may not have helped. Yes, and you're willing to talk about sales figures if they look bad for someone like Antarctic Press, but you're not willing to talk about bad sales numbers if they reflect poorly on Marvel Comics, for instance. So, same thing with Alterna Comics. You've got nothing good to say. You're obviously slanted in one direction, and so it always shocks me when there's so much pearl clutching going on, when a media outlet is accused of bias in their reporting, supposed reporting. Why is he clutching his pearls here? What is the point of this? I mean, you're not fooling anybody, let's face it. So anyway, he went through this whole thing, and it's a lot of the evidence that you've probably seen at length so far. I don't want to go through the whole thing, but it's really interesting how he frames this, because it seems like the kind of route that he's going with his mental gymnastics is that the book was published, it was self-published and distributed without the use of the publisher, and then the lawsuits happening. Like his recollection of events is very strange. And he's also quick to mention that there was controversy. Amidst controversy, Mark Waid called the publisher. Like, there's other controversy to blame, and it wasn't the fact that Mark Waid was the ringleader of this controversy. And if you looked at my last video, he liked to use the word, "we will burn this place to the ground." He considered himself part of that mob that was there to burn it to the ground. But now it's all backpedal. Also, that Richard C. Meyer was repeatedly accused repeatedly of hate speech. Now, and he engaged in hate speech. Why do I have to remind everybody of this? Hate speech is not a crime. Hate speech is, it's just a made-up term to control what you can and can't say. You cannot be thrown in prison for hate speech. Hate speech is free speech. So even if you're a nasty person, even if you say things that genuinely are racist, bigoted, whatever, you want to have the list of things that it could be, still not illegal. It's not a crime. You're not inciting violence. I mean, if you were inciting violence, that's a totally different thing. It wouldn't be hate speech. It would be you're inciting violence. So please stop saying hate speech like it's some kind of crime. It's not. It's a they hope that it's a crime. They hope they can make it into a thought crime. It's not, though. On the other hand, shortly afterward, Mark Waid called the publisher to talk about that decision to publish that book, Jawbreakers. Shortly afterward, the publisher announced that we're no longer going to be publishing the graphic novel. And in fact, there's evidence that decision was heavily influenced by Mark Waid, and that evidence is in this article in and of itself. And then he's got to point out that it was self-published a year later and individually distributed. Yes, it was. But the contract was interfered with before there was a decision to publish it. Just because he published it himself does not mean that there's no damages. He published it himself. He did not have a publisher do it for him. So this is a whole thing in and of itself at length. Most of it's just copying and pasting things, and then he'll put in a little comment here and there. And it was interesting because, and I'll point this out too, that some of the evidence that you're looking over, and because of the emails and things like that were going on from Antarctic Press, they didn't all agree with the politics that were coming from like My Hero Macadamia. There we go. Yeah, My Hero Macadamia. But they couldn't deny that it gave them sales, much needed sales. So what is so wrong with that? I don't know. But it makes people mad enough that they're going to be upset about it anyway. Another one of the criticisms in here was that the same people that were critical of it weren't going to buy the books anyway, and that's absolutely true. They weren't. Look how many documents they are. So you get it. There wasn't actually a lot of article here. I was a little surprised that there wouldn't have been more from Rich Johnson of Bleeding Cool. It was more just copying and pasting, and then just adding his spin to it, just to sort of minimize the fall of each of these, their terrible evidence against Mark Waid. But he'd always try to soften the fall, which is insane. Okay, so you notice this too, again, softening the fall. Also, in a game of textual whispers, it transpires that Mark Waid thought he was speaking and texting with Ben Dunn rather than Jo Min Dung, and that Jo Min Dung thought he was texting with someone else and stopped when it realized it was Mark Waid. I did not see the other way around, that he realized it was Mark Waid. I feel like I've read through those pretty thoroughly, but I did see Mark Waid call him Ben, and he was unsure of who it was that he was texting to. I did not see that the other way around. But apparently Rich Johnson, he saw that. He's going to make sure he adds that in there, so it's not Mark Waid's fault. These messages appear to be from Mark Waid's phone. They don't appear to be. These are confirmed. Mark Waid isn't denying this. This is confirmed. So it's not alleged. It's not appears to be. This is from Mark Waid's phone. And in fact, you can even see that it says Ben at the top. So this is Mark Waid's phone that he put in here. So he shared this information. So yeah, this is pretty cut and dry. This is what it is. So thanks for watching. There's a lot of, I don't know, this stuff's interesting to watch, like it is watching a car accident, but the truth is this is super important. This is a battle that needs to be won because it determines so much. Is it okay? Is it okay for Comic Book Pro to decide that you are unfit to publish your indie comic, and they can stop it at any time because they have accused you of hate speech? If they can make up crimes and then be judge, jury, and executioner, then it's definitely not a world that I want to live in. So let's help fight it here by please back Downcast. This would be a great help to me. This is an indie comic, and we're publishing it no matter what anybody says, except for you. The truth is that we've already reached our goal. We've crushed the goal. If you want to get a copy and support indie comics, then please do back it. It's in the description below. So thank you very much, and I will see you next time.